everybody, and welcome to the Morning Brew. So far, we have a Mitch and a Maniac man in the chat, and that is about it. So, hi, you two. Don't forget to share this out so you can see if we can get more people up in this chat so we can have a better stream. How about it? This morning at about 3:13 in the morning, maybe 10 after 3, somebody needed to go out to go poo because I guess she's still getting over this chicken allergy thing. I love Ruby Sue. She's absolutely adorable, and those are the two things that saved her from being yelled at this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning because I know she hasn't been feeling well, so you can't blame her. She did have some allergic itches this morning, a couple. Hey, Seamus, how you doing? But she seems to not be itching or scratching or doing any of the allergy symptom things anymore past this morning when we finally got up at around 6:30, 6:40. So there's that. She has been, while I was getting ready for the show, she was zipping around like somebody shot her up with espresso or something. So there was that. That happened. Let me see if I can get the camera going. So yeah, little Miss Ruby Sue. Sometimes I wish I had her. What am I kidding? Sometimes it'd be great if I had her energy all the time. It would be absolutely wonderful if I had her energy all the time. Now, this is my hair. It is. I can't do anything with these bangs having naturally curly hair other than either just fluff them up, let them frizz, or put a headband on. So that's about it. But yeah, this is me this morning. She's looking out her puppy TV, which is her window. No, Merlin had something unforeseen happen, so he is not going to be with us this morning, helping me read the news stories. So yeah, I'm all by myself on that front. He said he would explain it in better detail later on in the day, but yeah, I'm flying solo today. We already had our fumigator come in. He came in, put roach baits, and left. Luckily, that means after he's done and I put her on the porch for a while, I'm going to, scour my kitchen and then spray it with Raid and then go stand outside so I don't have to smell it because Raid don't smell good no matter what you do. And in an apartment this big, it doesn't matter how much or how little you spray it, you're still smelling it all over the place. Yep, he died. We will be hitting, news, breaking news and stuff at the end of the show since everybody kind of liked how I projected my phone, on the screen for the news. So we'll do that. Later on today, be on the lookout of an edited snippet from yesterday's live stream because I am taking the part where we read the article and Epstein's indictment. I'm editing that out and I'm uploading it as its own solo video. And I will be making a habit of doing that with some of the bigger stories as we go along. That way I have a little bit of content to put up in between my two main posting days. I did say for a new schedule that Tuesdays would be a weekend roundup, but obviously since we're back to doing the streams until I can get, until August 1st, hopefully by then I'll have a computer to where, these will continue, but on OBS. There will be, there won't be a weekend roundup on Tuesdays because, we're doing the stream again. Now, the main reason I keep saying until August 1st, for those of you that are not savvy or in the know, August 1st is when Google is doing away with the Hangouts that are directly linked to YouTube. This means anybody that doesn't have an encoder to stream with is screwed. My computer has an issue running OBS. It doesn't matter if it's Streamlabs OBS or regular OBS. The CPU tops out at 100% whether I'm playing a game or I just have programs open and I'm writing because I ran that test. I think it was last week that I ran the test. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I do. It tops out at 100% and I'm not willing to tax out the only rig that I have to do anything with. So if by the end of the month I do not have either more memory for this computer or a new rig, there will be no more live streams. So that is up to what we can do on our end, and Ronan with his driving and me with my streaming and my content creation. So hopefully we will be able to get something done. One of those goals will be met. In the description below, for those of you also that haven't been keeping up, are instructions on what I have lovingly named Ghetto Streamlabs. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Google suspended my main brand account. That's the MWM Media brand account. When they did that, they effectively quelled any type of linking to any kind of live chat bots. So there is no Nightbot. There is no Stream Elements. There is no Streamlabs boss. There is, nothing of that matter, because I don't have a branded Google Plus account. That's why there is no automated messages going through my live chat, because they've effectively screwed me. And because they screwed me, I left their partnership program. So they're not going to be getting any ads from me. They're not going to be getting any revenue from super chats or anything like that, because they can take a flying leap off a short pier. What are you doing? You and me got to get over your anxiety. You got to get over your anxiety for people walking around. Come here, baby girl. Come here, baby girl. Yeah, I know, but you can't go out there, because then you'll start barking at people. What? You can't bark at the neighborhood. And no, I don't have time to play. I'm working. All right, so with that, let's get on to the news. All right, the first thing out of our government dump this morning, and this is out of, Justice News. This is from the Department of Justice. Texas man pleads guilty to attempting to provide material support to ISIS. You heard that correctly. From August 2017 until his arrest in December 2017, Khan Serkan Damlarkaya attempted to join and support ISIS and provided information to other ISIS supporters about the use of machetes, the homemade construction of an automatic weapon, and how to build and use explosive materials, because he's an all-around great guy. As part of his plans to join ISIS overseas, starting in approximately early August 2017, Damlarkaya had numerous online conversations with individuals he believed to be fellow ISIS supporters. During these discussions, he described his intentions to travel overseas to fight for ISIS in Syria or Afghanistan. Damlarkaya added if he was unsuccessful in joining ISIS overseas, he would conduct an attack on non-Muslims in the United States, and that it was his dream to be a martyr. Stand-up guy, huh? Damlarkaya also provided information to other ISIS supporters on at least 2 separate occasions about ways to manufacture a bomb. Specifically, he described how to make explosives formula using tricetone hyperoxide and cautioned the others to take safety seriously while you make this to be useful until you can strike. Damlarkaya also provided other ISIS supporters with information about how to construct an automatic weapon. He also claimed that he could buy a giant machete for $15 and stated, "A lot of us are poor or we don't have experience, so not all of us can get a gun or make explosives, but we can afford to buy a $15 knife." He claimed that he slept with a machete under his pillow, ready to use if law enforcement raided his house. Boy, you would be shot as soon as you drew that thing out from under your pillow, you nitwit. When agents arrested Damlarkaya, they executed a search warrant at his residence and found a machete by his bed. U.S. District Judge Andrew S. Hanen accepted the plea today and has set sentencing for September 30th, 2019. At that time, Damlarkaya faces up to 20 years in federal prison and a maximum $250,000 possible fine. He has been and will remain in custody pending that hearing. So that is the first thing out of the DOJ this morning. So yeah, I'm trying to do everything. This is my Evernote. I love using Evernote because I can download stuff and take out the fluff and just, give you guys the meat and potatoes of everything. So we have, 4 minus me. Yeah, 4 people watching. So, hello, the 4 people that are watching, and I'm very appreciative of that. So, next one out of the DOJ. Tulsa man pleads guilty to payroll tax fraud. Failed to pay IRS over $1 million in employment taxes and employee withholdings. You cannot dupe the IRS. They will get you sooner or later. A computer software development company owner pleaded guilty today to failing to account for and pay over employment taxes withheld from his employees' wages. According to documents and information provided to the court, as the owner and operator of Tulsa-based Zealcon Corporation, Ernest J. Grayson Jr. was responsible for withholding, accounting for, and paying over to the Internal Revenue Service payroll taxes and withholdings due on the wages paid to Zealcon employees. For the period January 2014 through June of 2016, Grayson intentionally caused a total tax loss of more than $1 million by intentionally not paying to the IRS income and Social Security taxes withheld from Zealcon employees' wages and Social Security taxes due from Zealcon on those wages. Failing to account for or pay payroll taxes is not acceptable, said Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Zuckerman. They really need to shorten these titles. These people have titles longer than I am tall. Of the Justice Department's Tax Division. The Department of Justice, working with the IRS, will ensure that our tax system is fairly enforced throughout the country. Ernest Grayson is a dishonest employer, can't speak, who cheated both his employees and the United States government of more than $1 million in stolen payroll taxes. Some of those taxes were payments for the Social Security and Medicare coverage of the employees, said U.S. Attorney Trent Shores. I hope Mr. Grayson's potential prison sentence will dissuade other business members from trying to cheat the system. Millions of honest small businesses pay their fair share of taxes to finance government operations, as well as Social Security and Medicare for the elderly. Unfortunately, Mr. Grayson's choice not to do so has subjected him to criminal penalties. United States District Court Judge Claire V. Egan scheduled Grayson's hearing for October 3rd, 2019. So I'm not even mad. Everybody has that particular belief on it. I believe a modicum amount of taxes is needed, at least to maintain railways and some sort of security. But the overbloated government we have is just absolutely ridiculous at this point. Do you have to go potty now that I started my stream? I'll take that as a yes. You keep walking over to the door. Okay, well, unscheduled potty break for the puppers, even though I took her out before we started. So let me leave you guys with some music so you guys will have some entertainment.
No open houses, ever.
Commercial!
Zillow
Yay!
offers. Sell your home directly to Zillow.
So anybody that pops in, please let them know that I am going walking the Okay, that was a quick potty break on the dog's behalf, thank goodness. All right, small dog, small bladder. Whew. All right, let's open this back up. Whew. Yeah, I'm out of breath. Now I gotta get. Breathe. Okay. Outofice.gov. Hello, Wikipedia snippet. HSI officers' assistance with victim identification related to former Boy Scout official accused of photographing children changing after swimming. Yes, this happened. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Homeland Security investigations. Special agents issued a public appeal Monday for information related to an ongoing child exploitation investigation. Yeah. Thomas Close is awaiting trial on charges of production of child pornography related to his alleged surreptitious recording of boys changing after swimming as part of Boy Scout activities. Close. Oh, now I'm burping. Close 40 lived in Richland County. He was known as Aqua Joe because he worked with the Boy Scouts of America, often with their swimming program. Close is accused of secretly recording boys changing after they swam. His alleged crimes are believed to have happened in Ohio between 2011 and 2018. Close remains in jail pending the outcome of his federal crime case. Yeah. If anyone suspects they or their children were recorded by the defendant, they are asked to email their contact information to HSI directly at hsi-close-investigation@ice.dhs.gov, because they can't even have short email addresses. Please attach a photo of the child in question, preferably a photo that was taken around the years that Close would have had contact with your child, so you or your child had contact with Close, so investigators can positively identify if the child is associated with this case. A member of the investigative team will respond to your request. So, yeah. Wood chipper? Yeah, right? Right? Oh, some of these people, man, I don't know what in your brain has to be miswired to the point where you think that it's a really good idea to do anything with kids when you're fully grown. So this is the continuing saga with Jeffrey Epstein. Investigative journalist Vicky Ward claimed Monday that former Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter cut a deal with financier Jeffrey Epstein to spike allegations he molested a teenager from her 2003 profile of the wealthy financier. In an interview with Mediate founder Don Abrams on his Sirius XM radio show, so take this with a grain of salt because Mediate was the only one that I found that didn't seem like a blog or, any of the really non-credible sources. Ward said she included testimonials from two sisters, one just 16 who claimed they were molested by Epstein. While she was reporting the story, Carter removed the allegations from her profile. Not only did their mother corroborate the two sisters' stories, so did a whole host of people of very good standing in New York. We were ready to go, Ward continued, but then Epstein visited Carter at Vanity Fair's offices, and between them, they cut a deal to take the women's stories out. It was explained to me that Graydon felt that Epstein was sensitive about the women. Well, I bet. He's diddling kids. I don't think he wants that advertised all over the place. People complain napalm was sticking to kids, and now it's high-profile pedos. Right? Ward explained. Ward also claimed Epstein threatened her unborn children. She was pregnant with twins at the time over the piece. Ward said that she felt Carter wouldn't get away with spiking the allegations at Epstein's request today. I think that it's journalism that dates back to an era that's thankfully long gone, Ward said. If Graydon Carter had made the same decision 16 years later, I think his job would be on the line. I don't think so. Yes, there has been a definite shift in mainstream media and the way people report things, but I still think money talks behind the scenes, and I still think those stories probably would have been covered up. I have thought often about the fact that if my piece had been published in full with the names and stories of these women, the FBI may have come after Epstein sooner, and perhaps some of his victims would have been saved, tweeted Ward. Money and connections bought him the ability to evade justice, otherwise known as he who has the gold makes the rules. Ex-Vanity Fair editor Graydon Carter says, we didn't have confidence in Vicky P.J. Ward's reporting on Epstein in response to her claim about him cutting accounts of 3 women from the 2003 magazine profile. More from Carter. We are not in the habit of running away from a fight, but she simply didn't have the goods. Morning, cynical Lindsay, a multimillionaire flexing his wealth and power to silence people for exposing him dealing with. Yeah, I know. Imagine my shock. Yep. So this is out of Mediate. Like I said, the other sources that I found looked like blogs or were very, very leaning in one direction. So this was the one that I found that had the most information that I could glean and read to you guys on a stream. In case if you guys are new to my particular brand of streaming, the reason why I do it this way now, because I used to write my own articles, and I will get back to doing that sooner or later, once I get back in the groove of this, is this highlighted part is what I consider the facts. And I tend to either take out extraneous information when I'm reading this stuff, kind of like this, or flat out leanings and things of that nature. I do leave it on the screen so people can see what I am reading and the fact that I don't want to take the context out. And I also do this for the hearing impaired, because writing captions to a live stream would take a hell of a lot longer than doing it this way. So here we go. Judge strikes down rule requiring drug ads to reveal prices. This was being swept under the rug because of what's going on lately. A federal judge Monday blocked a major White House initiative on prescription drug costs, saying the Trump administration lacked the legal authority to require drug makers to disclose prices in TV ads. Struck down, okay, let me see here. DC struck down a requirement that was set to go into effect within hours on Tuesday, that would be today. Drug makers had argued that requiring them to disclose list prices amounted to coercion that would violate their free speech rights under the Constitution. How? Because you're being told to do it? Okay. 27-page ruling. Meta avoided debating the First Amendment, saying simply that the Trump administration had failed to show it had legal authority under the statutes that govern federal programs such as Medicare to require price disclosure. He wrote that neither the law's text, structure, nor context evince an intent by Congress to empower administrative agencies to issue a rule that compels drug manufacturers to disclose list prices. Because, why would you want free market? But no matter how vexing the problem of spiraling drug costs may be, HHS cannot do more than what Congress has authorized. Hey, that's your bed. You don't need to take the stuffing out of your bed. You have a whole bunch of toys. You don't need to be messing with your bed. Cannot do more than what Congress has authorized. The responsibility rests with Congress to act in the first instance. HHS spokeswoman Caitlin Oakley will be working with they said the administration was disappointed. We'll be working with the Department of Justice on the next steps related to the litigation. The administration could appeal the ruling, and it could also ask Congress to specifically authorize requiring drug makers to disclose their prices. The Senate and the House are working on a package of bills that aim to reduce health care costs for insured patients, and drug prices are one of the lawmakers' biggest targets. AARP Vice President Nancy Lamond also called the ruling a disappointment. Today's ruling is a step backward in the battle against skyrocketing drug prices, she said in a statement. Americans should be trusted to evaluate drug price information and discuss any concerns with their healthcare providers. So yeah, Meta was nominated to the federal branch by former President Barack Obama. So there you have it. No matter how much he wants to bring transparency to stuff, they seem to fight him every single step of the way. And everybody has their own reasons and whys and wherefores as to why this is being done, why this cover up is happening. So I personally would like to know how much the drug is, how much the prescription drug is, because it has to be on the market, I believe, 10 years. The designer named version of the prescription drug has to be on the market for 10 years before any generics are made from that particular medication, so they can make back their research dollars. I think that's how it works. At least that's how it did work a while back. I don't know if it still works that way or not. Oh, struck down. It sounded like you said strapped down. Nope, struck down. All right, here we go. Latest Obamacare court battle plays out in Nolans. In Nolans, y'all. We're in Nolans. The fate of former President Barack Obama's signature health care law and its coverage and insurance protections for millions of Americans is again being argued before a panel of judges, this time a federal appeals court in Nolans. At issue in a hearing scheduled Tuesday by a 3-judge panel of the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals is what damn it. Appeals is whether Congress effectively rendered it unconstitutional in 2017 when it zeroed out the tax imposed on those who chose not to buy insurance. Texas-based U.S. District Judge Reed O'Connor declared in December that it did. Hey, memes. It's unclear when the panel will rule in a case that appears destined for the Supreme Court, which has reviewed the law before. The ultimate outcome will affect protections for people with pre-existing conditions, Medicaid expansions covering roughly 12 million people, and subsidies that help out about 10 million others afford health care insurance. Charging people through the roof for premiums to ensure insurance protections. Yeah, it is. It's freaking hilarious because my mom can't afford this. It was filed after Congress, which didn't repeal the law despite pressure from President Donald Trump, reduced to zero the unpopular tax imposed upon those without insurance. Yeah, because you shouldn't be penalized if you can't afford the shit. But, Obamacare. In challenging the law anew, Obamacare opponents noted the 2012 ruling of a divided Supreme Court that upheld the law. Conservative justices had rejected the argument that Congress could require everyone to buy insurance under the Constitution's Interstate Commerce Clause, but Chief Justice John Roberts, joining 4 liberal justices, said Congress did have the power to impose a tax on those without insurance. Morning, baby. Oh, it is Ronan's birthday today, so everybody wish him a happy birthday in the chat. With no tax penalty now in effect, the Texas law argues the individual mandate is unconstitutional and the entire law must fall without it, because it's slowly falling apart anyway. California's Attorney General represents a coalition of mostly Democratic-led states and the District of Columbia seeking to overturn O'Connor's ruling and uphold the law. Hi, MC. The House of Representatives has joined them. Among the arguments by the law's supporters, 2 who filed suit have no case because they aren't harmed by a penalty that doesn't exist. The reduction of the tax penalty to zero could be read as a suspension of the tax, but the tax's legal structure still exists, and that even if the individual mandate is now unconstitutional, that does not affect the rest of the law known as the Affordable Care Act, or the Non-Affordable Care Act, because shit, you can't afford this crap. When the law was proposed, friends and foes of Obamacare agreed that the tax was essential to persuade healthy people to get insured, thereby keeping premiums in check. But this year, the first time no fines will be collected, the number of people signing up for subsidized private insurance through the Affordable Health Care Act slipped only slightly. You can't expect healthy people to sign up for something that they have read all the way through and realized that it's not worth it. I didn't highlight this, but it says, if they are successful in striking down the Affordable Health Care Act, Republicans will own all of the consequences. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer of New York said on a call Monday with reporters. Of course, because he's the one that got this over-bloated, overpriced. I mean, it's a mess. The Affordable Care Act is a clusterfuck of epic proportions that should have never happened, and it got rushed through during a break. They slid it through while most of the Republicans weren't even in Congress, right behind a lot of people's backs. With if you pass it, you'll know what's in it. No, that was the worst shit ever. It still is the worst crap ever. It's when Pelosi said that, I was like, oh, we're screwed. Because if you're not going to tell us what's in it until it's voted for, then it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. All right, here we go. Yes, the census question is still raging. Barr sees a legal way to ask about citizenship on census. Yeah, they did because the Republicans were on vacay. Attorney General William Barr said Monday he sees a way to legally require 2020 census respondents to declare whether or not they are citizens, despite a Supreme Court ruling that forbade asking the question. Yep, never forget. Barr would not detail the plans, though a senior official said President Donald Trump is expected to issue a memorandum to the Commerce Department instructing it to include the question on census forms. The Supreme Court recently blocked the question, at least temporarily, saying the administration's justification seems to have been contrived. That was a blow to Trump, who has been pressing for the government to demand information about citizenship, which he should. It was on there before. Schumer was all for passing an illegal law that Republicans opposed, and the Republicans own it. Right. Exactly, MC. I figured you'd like that. The U.S. Census Bureau's experts have said requiring such information would discourage immigrants from participating in the survey and result, can we just call them illegal aliens? Because that's what the fuck they are. They're not immigrants, they're illegal aliens. If they were immigrants, they'd be legal. Or in the process of becoming naturalized citizens, which would make them what? Legal citizens. That in turn would redistribute money and political power away from Democratic-led cities where immigrants tend to cluster to wider rural areas where Republicans do dwell. Okay, let me explain to you. As a former employee of the Census Bureau, we were trained first and foremost to put down as answers whatever the people gave us. Which means if we were there and we were asking how many children they had, and there are 8 children running around the damn house, and they looked at us with a serious face and said, we have 2 kids, we have to put 2 children down on the survey form. There is no way to enforce being truthful on any of the surveys that the U.S. Census Bureau does. And this includes the every 10-year census, or what the Census Bureau lovingly names for a shorter name, the decennial. Okay? The decennial is a mandatory survey, but for those of you who don't know and live in the United States, the U.S. Census Bureau does not have an enforcement arm to penalize people that don't fill out the decennial form. Just figured you would like to know that. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is replacing the legal team that has been pursuing Trump's efforts, putting in place a new team consisting of both career and politically appointed attorneys. That doesn't sound right. Same thing. Yeah, exactly. The new team may find it easier to argue the administration's new position, said an administration official, speaking only on condition of anonymity because the official was not authorized to comment for attribution. Sean King. Yeah, exactly. Sean King, baby. Barr said he didn't have details on why the attorneys didn't want to continue, but as far as I know, they don't think we are legally wrong. Barr said he's been in regular contact with Trump over the issue of the citizenship question. I agree with him that the Supreme Court decision was wrong, the Attorney General said. He said that he believes there is an opportunity potentially to cure the lack of clarity. That was the problem, and we might as well take a shot at doing that. The Trump administration has argued that it wanted the question included to aid in enforcing the Voting Rights Act, which protects minority voters' access to the ballot box. But Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's 4 more liberal members in last month's Supreme Court decision, openly skeptical about that justification. He would be. Pelosi, meanwhile, said in a letter to colleagues that the full House would be moving to forward with a vote to hold Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross in contempt of Congress after the administration failed to comply with the subpoenas regarding the census question. They are going to hound this administration until 2020 when Trump gets reelected, and then all of their brains are going to melt from the side effect of them trying to figure out how he got elected for a second term. They keep pulling this shit, and it's like everybody else sees this. Everybody else knows that the more you push these identity politics, the more you push for impeachment, the more you do bullshit like this contempt of Congress bullshit, the more you're securing Trump for another 4 years. People with common sense see this. When does the court get to determine justifications when they should only be deciding on the legality of the law? Exactly. But you know, orange man bad, y'all. Orange man bad. Meat from a lab? Startups cook up alternative to slaughter. Yep, you heard that right. Our chicken is chicken. You've got to taste it to believe it, Valetti says. This is no ordinary piece of poultry. No chicken was raised or slaughtered to harvest the meat. It was produced in a laboratory by extracting cells from a chicken and feeding them in a nutrient broth until the cell culture grew into raw meat. Memphis Meats, based in Emeryville, California, is one of a growing number of startups worldwide that are making cell-based or cultured meat. They want to offer an alternative to traditional meat production that they say is damaging the environment and causing unnecessary harm to animals. But they are far from becoming mainstream and face pushback from livestock producers. This is like Shadowrun-esque. The company, which also has produced cell-grown beef and duck, has attracted investments from food giants Cargill and Tyson Foods, as well as billionaires Richard Branson and Bill Gates. Soylent Green, right? A report released in June by consulting firm A.T. Kearney predicts that by 2040, cultured meat will make up 35% of meat consumed worldwide, while plant-based alternatives will compose 25%. The large-scale livestock industry is viewed by many as an unnecessary evil. If it tastes exactly like chicken, I'll eat it. I'll have to see. The report says, with the advantages of novel vegan meat replacements and cultured meat over conventionally produced meat, it's only a matter of time before meat replacements capture a substantial market share. But first, cultured meat must overcome significant challenges, including bringing down the exorbitant cost of production, showing regulators it's safe, and enticing consumers to take a bite. Finless Foods, another startup in Emeryville, is making cultured fish and seafood. It's produced cell-based versions of salmon, carp, and sea bass, and it's working on bluefin tuna, a popular species that is overfished and contains high levels of mercury. The company has invited guests to sample its cell-based fish cakes. Cultured hoity-toity meat, yeah. Silent running is coming soon, right? Food safety advocates will be watching to ensure the agencies provide rigorous oversight and protect people from bacterial contamination and other health threats, said Jaden Hansen, policy director at the nonprofit Center for Food Safety. It will be important for the public that this will be well regulated, Hansen said. What are you doing over there? Ruby Sue? You reacted way too fast. What are you doing over there? Yes, I love you too, but I think you're into something. It will be important for the public that this will be... Damn it. Sip. It will be important for the public that this will be well regulated, Hansen said. Do these really solve the environmental problem? Do they really solve the animal welfare problem? That needs to be part of the review as well. Cell-based meat companies also face resistance from U.S. livestock producers. They love it in Asia. Who have been lobbying states to restrict the meat label to food products derived from slaughtered animals and have been raising questions about the safety, cost, and environmental effect of cultured meat. There's still many, many unknowns about these cell-based products, said Eric Mittenthal, vice president for the sustainability at the North American Meat Institute. We really don't know if it's something consumers will accept from a taste perspective. We don't know if it's going to be affordable. Can they grow PB&J without the crust? Right? Oh my God. Memphis Meats hopes to sell its cell-based meat within the next 2 years, starting with restaurants and then moving into grocery stores, assuming it passes USDA and FDA inspections. We are actually preserving the choice of eating meat for people, Valetti said. Instead of saying give up eating meat or eat a meat alternative, we're saying continue eating the meat that you love. However, and how something tastes is generally direction. The brain has ceased functioning because there's a word I'm trying to say and my mouth is trying to say something different. The way meat tastes is directly related to how that meat was raised, how the animal was fed, and how the animal was treated. Give it to Somalians and see what happens.
Power off.
Whoops, I want my Bluetooth speaker. We've all eaten grain-fed beef. I've also eaten grass-fed beef. Now, grass-fed beef to me has a better taste than grain-fed beef. The problem with this is when they grow it in a lab and they're growing it from cultures, is it going to have its own taste or is it going to taste sterile? I mean, we know what each of these meats taste like, but like I said, they taste different depending on how it was raised. So to me, that's a question, because if you give me a cultured chicken breast raised in a lab and it has no fucking taste to it, I'm not buying it. I'm not eating it. I'm not going anywhere near it. I'm not going to endorse the product. If you have to genetically pump flavoring into the meat, I'm not going anywhere near it either. I'm not. I'll keep eating regular stuff because that's the way I was raised and that's the way I'm going to do it. Okay. Here's a follow-up from yesterday's story that we covered. Trump lashes out at Britain's ambassador for a second date because he can't keep his mouth shut on Twitter. U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out for a second day at Britain's ambassador to the United States on Tuesday, describing him as wacky and a pompous fool after a leak of emails critical of the American administration. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Describing him as, okay, wait a minute. The series of tweets came hours after Prime Minister Theresa May stood by Kim Darroch and amid the controversy over the release of the documents published in the Mail on Sunday newspaper. Mail on Sunday. What? The Daily Mail on Sunday. Good Lord, edit. It's editing. Come on. I know you have an editing department because that just made my brain hurt. The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the United States is not someone we are thrilled with. A very stupid guy, Trump tweeted. Trump then combined his criticism of Darroch with a broadside at May, chiding her for failing to get her Brexit deal through Parliament. I told Theresa May how to do that deal, but she went her own foolish way, was unable to get it done. A disaster, he tweeted. I don't know the ambassador, but I've been told he's a pompous fool. I'm going to be looking up those tweets in a moment. In the leaked documents, he called Trump administration's policy toward Iran incoherent, said the president might be indebted to dodgy Russians, and had raised doubts about whether the White House will ever look competent. An investigation is underway over the major breach of diplomatic security. It says, you can't change an ambassador at the demand of a host country, Haig told the BBC. It is their job to give an honest assessment of what is happening in that country. So you can't fault him for that. Let me come over here. Come on. Yay! I knew you could do it. Okay, I know my lists. Where's my lists? Okay, here we go. Five Eyes, everyone's right. Let me see. Here we go. No, you retweeted that. You need Donald Trump healthcare. Minnesota Supreme Court, and they're both getting bigger and stronger. There it is. All right, so this is exactly what he said, because sometimes I don't think he should be on Twitter, but here it is. The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the United States is not someone we are thrilled with, a very stupid guy. He should speak to his country and Prime Minister May about their failed Brexit negotiation and not be upset with my criticism of how badly it was. Badly it was? God, your grammar is worse than it. Okay, how badly it was handled. Continue the ellipsis and you will follow to the end of the sentence. I told Theresa May how to do that deal, but she went her own foolish way, was unable to get it done. A disaster. I don't know the ambassador, but I've been told he's a pompous fool. Tell him the USA now has the best economy and military anywhere in the world by far, and they are both only getting bigger, better, and stronger. Thank you, Mr. President. You thanked yourself. That's cringy. You thanked yourself. That's cringy as fuck. Ew. The cringe. It's the cringe. Okay. So that is that. So yeah, that's still going back and forth. So they're going to investigate where the leak came from. And everybody has their opinion of people, okay? You can't change people's opinions. And apparently, from other things that I've seen here and about, unconfirmed as of yet, so keep that in mind, he did request a change of ambassadorship. He did request a change of diplomat for the U.S. By the UK, and the UK basically said we're not. It doesn't work that way. Right? Right. So yeah, it's. I'm gonna keep an eye on it because, like I said, I saw that there was a request for a change in a diplomat. And they said it don't work that way. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right, here we go. New UK PM must put Brexit plan to second referendum. Labour's Corbin. Because, wherever there's Brexit, there's Jeremy Corbyn. Opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn on Tuesday said Britain's next Prime Minister must put their Brexit plan to a second referendum on European Union membership, saying his party would campaign to remain. In an email to members, Corbyn said Labour would campaign to stay in the EU to stop a new Conservative Party leader who would be chosen later this month, taking Britain out of the bloc without a divorce deal or to stop what he called a damaging Brexit. Inches the opposition party closer to heeding demands from many Labour members and some lawmakers to unequivocally embrace a second referendum to break the impasse in Parliament over how to leave the EU. In other words, none of us like the first vote, so let's vote on the same thing again because reasons. This is where I agree with people like Irate Bear, Omegon, and people over there in the UK. You've already voted on the referendum. People voted to leave. Respect that and do whatever it takes to leave. Quit demanding a second referendum vote. You can't keep voting on the same shit until you get the answer you want. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Former Foreign Minister and London Mayor Boris Johnson is battling current Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt to replace her as party leader and Prime Minister. Johnson, who says he will take Britain out of the EU with or without a deal, is favorite. Some spiders have 5 eyes. Whoever becomes the new Prime Minister should have the confidence to put their deal or no deal back to the people in a public vote, Corbyn said. In those circumstances, I want to make it clear that Labour would campaign for Remain against either no deal or a Tory Conservative deal that does not protect the economy and jobs. More than 3 years since voting 52 to 48 to leave the EU, Britain's two main parties, its parliament and cities and towns across the country, are still deeply divided over Brexit, opening the way for smaller parties to grab some share of the vote. And there's even a Brexit party now. Chuka Umunna, wow, what a name, a former Labour lawmaker who has joined the Liberal Democrats, said on Twitter, yet another fudge where the Labour leadership keep open the door to standing on a pro-Brexit platform in a general election or supporting it in government. Some people need to learn English. There was a word there missing. It should be to keep open the door. Or where the Labour leadership keeps open the door. or something, because that whole tweet makes my eyes cross. That's okay. On the world stage. On the world stage. Here we go. No, wait a minute. This one. Oh, I got two. Shit. I got two world ones. We're going to go. The surveillance issue with Five Eyes. Oh, okay. I was wondering. Okay. Nepal court jails ex-UN official for child abuse because, apparently abusing children is like the in thing to do now. Eye roll. A former UN official has been jailed in Nepal for sexually abusing children. Oh, yep, another kitty diddler. Paul John Dalglish, 62, from Canada, was detained near Kathmandu in 2018 and convicted last month. He was sentenced to 9 years for abusing a 12-year-old boy and 7 for molesting a 14-year-old boy. It is unclear if the terms run concurrently. Dalglish, a high-profile humanitarian worker since the 1980s, has denied the charges, and his lawyer told Reuters he would appeal. Due process has not been fulfilled during the investigation in the case, so we'll appeal. The lawyer, Rahul Champagne, said. I probably butchered that. Dalglish was also ordered to pay compensation of 500,000 rupees, which is $4,600 or 3,600 pounds, to each victim. Both boys were in his house when he was arrested. Well, that don't look good. The judge is yet to decide whether he should serve a total 16 years in jail or be released after 9 years. In most cases of similar nature, sentences get overlapped, but it is upon the judge to decide, a district court official told AFP news agency. Dalglish was a well-respected humanitarian involved in projects across the globe. He co-founded Kids Streets International in the 1980s, which later merged with Save the Children. So, yay. Oh, is it me, or does it just appear that there's a lot of diddlers that are showing up and crawling out of the woodwork and being exposed as of late? Or is that just me? Am I just seeing things, or is there like a pattern of this going on? Because holy hell, shit like this makes me need to take a shower. All right, for those of you that like Egypt and Egyptian history, like moi, Egypt to sue Christie's to retrieve 4.7 million pound Tutankhamun bust. Egypt says it will instruct a law firm in the UK to file a civil suit over the sale last week of a Tutankhamun bust. The sculpture of the pharaoh was bought for 4.7 million pounds, $6 million, at Christie's auction house in London, despite Egypt warning it was probably stolen in the 1970s. Antiquities Minister Khalid Al-Enani told the BBC that he would try to repatriate the artifact. Christie said all necessary checks were made over the bust's provenance and that the sale was legal and valid. It stated that Germany's Prince Wilhelm von Thurned Taxis reputedly had it in his collection by the 1960s, and that it was acquired by an Austrian dealer in 73-74. What, no price in euros? Nope. Pounds and dollars. Before Thursday's auction, at which 32 other Egyptian artifacts were also sold, Christie's insisted the bust had been well published and exhibited in the last 30 years, and that it had established a recent ownership along with the right to sell. But the Egyptian embassy in London complained to the UK Foreign Office that the sale was inconsistent with relevant international treaties and conventions. Whoopsie. Egypt's former antiquities chief Zahi Hawass said the bust appeared to have been stolen in the 1970s from the Temple of Karnak. The owners have given false information, he told the AFP news agency. They have not shown any legal papers to provide its ownership. On Monday night, the Egyptian National Committee for Antiquities Repatriation, NCAR, expressed its deep discontent of the unprofessional way in which the Egyptian artifacts were sold without the provision of the ownership documents and proof that the artifacts left Egypt in a legitimate manner. The committee announced that it had decided to instruct a British law firm to file a civil lawsuit over the sale of the bust. You forgot a fucking word there. and that it would also ask Interpol to issue a circular to track down the illegal sale of Egyptian artifacts worldwide. Egypt has had a long-standing problem with this. Grave robbers in 1970 prolifically robbed them of a lot of their artifacts. They've been trying to get them back ever since. They left us with no other option but to go to court to restore our smuggled antiquities, Mr. Anani told the BBC. We will leave no stone unturned until we repatriate the Tutankhamun bust and the other 32 pieces sold by Christie's. This is human heritage that should be on public display in its country of origin. Hold on just a moment. Mm-hmm. Right? They couldn't spring for Grammarly, right? I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, Egypt has had this problem for years since the grave robbers in the 60s and 70s. They've been trying to reclaim all of their artifacts and they've been finding them smuggled, sold on black markets, and now you have Christie's, which is a very prestigious auction house, not even going through the channels, apparently not going through the channels that it needs to go through to make sure that, these artifacts are not stolen. So yeah, they've had this problem for a while, and it's like, I don't understand how you look at an artifact like this and go, well, okay, we're totally not going to go through every single thing we need to go through to make sure that these artifacts aren't stolen, even though we know that Egypt has been actively looking for their stolen artifacts since they were stolen in the 1970s. But we're just going to auction it off anyway. It's like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm with, these people. I'm with the Egyptian Museum and the lawyers that are pursuing this case, because these things need to be in a museum. They need to be preserved. They need to be displayed. This is history. This is ancient human history. It needs to be preserved and displayed. It doesn't need to be in somebody's private collection. All right, here we go. Next one. I have a puppy on my lap. Hong Kong protesters to continue after bill declared dead. Yep, this is still going on. Hong Kong protest leaders opposed to the administration of Chief Executive Carrie Lam said Tuesday that they will continue their demonstrations even after Lam declared the effort to amend a highly contentious extradition bill dead. Protesters are persisting in their demands for the bill to be formally withdrawn and an investigation opened into heavy-handed tactics used by police against demonstrators. I had to take a sip. We cannot find the word dead in any of the laws in Hong Kong or in any legal proceedings in the Legislative Council, protest leaders Jimmy Sham and Bonnie Leung said in statements in English and Cantonese. So how can the government tell us that we should preserve our rule of law when Lam herself does not use the principle of the rule of the law, the two said. Lam acknowledged at a news conference earlier Tuesday that there were lingering doubts about the government's sincerity or worries about whether it would seek to bring the legislation back for a vote. But she said, I reiterate here, there is no such plan. The bill is dead. The protests against the proposed extradition legislation have given voice to fears that Hong Kong is losing the freedoms guaranteed to it when the former British colony was returned to China in 1997. In the most recent protest on Sunday, tens of thousands of people chanting Free Hong Kong and some carrying British colonial-era flags marched toward a high-speed railway station that connects Hong Kong to the Chinese mainland. They said they wanted to carry their protest message to those on the mainland, where state-run media have not covered the protests widely, but have focused instead on clashes with police and property damage. Of course, because it's China, and China is communist. That means The press is run and approved by the government, which means the only thing that people are going to know is what the government wants them to know, and that's never the whole truth. They are always going to lie by omission because communist society. On July 1st, the 22nd anniversary of Hong Kong's handover from Britain back to China, a peaceful march drew hundreds of thousands of people, but was overshadowed by an assault on the territory's legislative building. A few hundred demonstrators shattered thick glass panels to enter the building and wreaked havoc for 3 hours, spray painting slogans on the chamber walls, overturning furniture, and damaging electronic voting and fire prevention systems. Protesters are demanding an independent investigation into alleged police abuse of force against demonstrators on June 12th when officers used tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse crowds blocking major streets. Now, I would probably have to go and look up the videos to see how they were blocking these streets, if they were being peaceful or if they were being forceful with it. But something tells me, with the amount of people that have been protesting this as of late, that street was probably jam-packed from population alone, because these people did not want that extradition bill to go through, and they did not care how they stopped it. So there is that. Hi, Neil. The last world news for the day, before I talk to the chat for a little bit. Yes, this is a timeline out of AP. The latest, French president sends advisor to Iran for talks. So I'm going to scroll all the way down, since this came out yesterday, and they always do these timelines backwards. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the end of the article, and then we're going to go up in chronological order. So down, and here we are. All right, so this was 12 p.m. France time yesterday. Iran says the last chance for saving its 2015 nuclear deal with world powers will pass after a 60-day deadline. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Abbas Mousavi told reporters Monday that Iran won't offer any further deadlines to save the deal by September. The previous day, Iranian officials said the country would take further steps toward the reduction of its compliance with the accord after the deadline. Iran has already breached the deal's limits on uranium enrichment and stockpiling. Okay, cool. Yeah, everybody seems to have started in the morning now. I have a lot of competition now, and I'm still a really small channel. All right, so 2:55 French time yesterday, a Kremlin spokesman says that Russia is concerned about growing tensions between Tehran and the U.S. over Iran's unraveling nuclear deal with world powers. Hey, and that pesky thing about the drone being shot down in international waters, but why include that? Dmitry Peskov told reporters on Monday that Russia is concerned by Iran's announcement. It is raising its uranium enrichment levels, furthering its breach of the 2015 nuclear deal. Peskov said that the Kremlin had warned that President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw the U.S. from the deal a year ago would entail negative consequences to global security. He called on all parties to use diplomacy to overcome the crisis. Iran has given the remaining signatories to the deal, which include Russia, 60 days to find a way around the crippling U.S. sanctions, or says it will take further steps away from the deal. Okay, so instead of trying to bring all parties back to the table to sit down since Trump has walked away, you're going to help Iran circumvent the sanctions. Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? All right, this is 3:05 p.m. yesterday, France time. Semi-official media in Iran is quoting the country's nuclear agency spokesman as saying Tehran is now enriching uranium to 4.5%. This comes a day after Iran announced it would break the 3.67 limit imposed by its 2015 nuclear deal with world powers. It earlier broke a limit put on its stockpile of low-enriched uranium. Iran is asking Europe to come up with a way to help sell its crude oil abroad and get around U.S. sanctions. However, Europe has yet to do so. I covered all of this on a live stream on this channel, and I'm probably going to go back and download that live stream, edit it, add this part of this live stream to it, and then upload everything for a full video. We shall see. All right, here we go. 4:30 yesterday, France time. Germany says it is refraining from immediate measures against Iran, but will wait for the international The IAEA's inspection report on Tehran's claim it is enriching uranium above the level allowed under the 2015 deal with world powers. Brule told reporters in Berlin as soon as the report is available, Germany will examine it and discuss with others in the nuclear pact, Iran, Britain, France, China, and Russia, how to proceed. He added that what's important to us is to get Iran to abide by the agreement again. No shit. Here we go. 5:30 p.m. France time yesterday. China has expressed regret over Iran's breaching of the 2015 nuclear deal and blamed the United States, saying maximum pressure from the Trump administration, which withdrew from the accord last year, is behind the crisis. It was a crappy fucking deal. Foreign Ministry spokesman Gang Shuang described the comprehensive agreement as the only realistic and effective way to resolve the Iranian nuclear issue and ease tensions. Gang called for a diplomatic solution, saying it has been proven that unilateral bullying has become a worsening tumor and it is creating more problems and greater crisis on a global scale. So you're trying to say that we're bullying Iran, even though Iran is an actual threat to countries, to other first world countries and the countries around it. I mean, I covered an article saying that when asked, the Iranian people literally said, "We don't blame Trump for the sanctions. We know the struggles that we're going through stem from our revolution in the 70s and the crappy decisions our own government has made since then." In other words, we're in the position we're in because our government leaders are fucking up. And they seem to be the only ones that are blaming their own their own leaders. 9 p.m. yesterday, the UN's Atomic Energy Watchdog has confirmed that Iran is enriching uranium above the threshold set in 2015 nuclear accord. Semi-official news agencies in Iran earlier reported that the country began enriching uranium Monday to 4.5%, breaking the limit set 4 years ago in the deal with world powers. The Vienna-based IAEA didn't specify how much beyond the threshold Iran is enriching uranium. Uranium enriched to 90% is considered weapons grade. Hey! Come on, Ruby Sue. Don't make me shut that shade. All right, 10:10 France time last night. Netanyahu, a longtime opponent of the landmark accord that U.S. President Donald Trump abandoned, accused Iran on Monday of trying to lash out to reduce the pressure. He cited a string of alleged Iranian attacks on oil tankers and Iran's downing of a U.S. drone last month. Netanyahu said it's important to respond to these actions not by reducing the pressure, but by increasing the pressure. He urged Europe to back the Trump administration's decision to impose crippling sanctions on Iran. Now, when I finish reading this timeline, I'm going to give you guys my 2 cents about this. Come here, Ruby Sue. Let me put you out on the porch over here. Big girl. So, come on. There. Have a happy trip. All right. The UN says Secretary General Antonio Guterres believes Iran's uranium enrichment above the limit set in 2015 nuclear accord, if confirmed, would neither help preserve the agreement nor secure tangible economic benefits for the Iranian people. UN Deputy Spokesman Farhan Haq said Monday that the Secretary General encourages Iran to continue implementing all its nuclear commitments under the deal as participants continue to seek ways to overcome the considerable challenges the country faces. So, a lot of shit going on. All right, this was 8:40 p.m., I guess, today. French President Emmanuel Macron is sending his chief diplomatic advisor to Iran following its decision to enrich uranium beyond the threshold of the 2015 nuclear record. Elysée Palace, excuse-moi, I took 2 years of French, I can't pronounce Elysée. Elysée Palace said Monday that Emmanuel Bon was returning on Tuesday to Tehran. He had made a day-long visit last month in a bid to de-escalate tensions. It was not immediately clear how long he would stay in the Iranian capital or with whom he would meet. Europe is under pressure to try to salvage the accord between Iran and world powers after the U.S. withdrew from it last year and restored heavy sanctions. Macron said over the weekend that he's trying to find a way to resume dialogue between Iran and Western partners by July 15th. He spoke Saturday with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. And that's where we're at now with the whole Iran situation. The whole Iran situation is really effing scary to me. It is really scary to me because they're in a spot in the world that they're pretty much geographically, like, if I don't even know where to begin with this. But I will start with this. As is evident with countries like Cuba and Venezuela, as well as Iran, when you have people in power that do not think rationally about the welfare of their people and put the welfare of their people first, sanctions don't work. The most unkiltered, for lack of a better word, country leaders will starve their population to death if they think what they're doing is just. You can't sanction madmen and expect them to be rational. Until Trump made his first visit to North Korea, we saw that. How many sanctions did we are there in place in North Korea? Just from the U.S. alone, from the UN alone, from the United Nations alone? I mean, there are countless numbers of sanctions. Kim Jong-un don't care. Or he didn't, because he don't care how many sanctions you put on his people. He knows where to reach, where to look, and who to talk to circumvent those sanctions. And so does Venezuela, so does Cuba, and I bet you anything, so does Iran. These people are as intelligent as they are psychotic, for lack of a better word. Because to me, you cannot consider yourself a sane individual if you do not put the safety and health of your population ahead of your own ambitions when you are the leader of a country. If you starve your entire population, who do you have left to rule? Yeah. But then again, like I said, and I'm going to turn the camera on so you guys can see my screwed up hair again. So excuse my hair. My bangs are just an unruly mess, and they will always be. Unless I have a headband or something that I really don't have available. All right, right now anyway, it's in the bathroom. I don't want to get up again and waste any more time. Okay, so revolt is a good idea, Wiki. The only problem is this. In countries like Cuba, North Korea, and Venezuela, as well as Iran, as many people are against what is happening in their country, there are that many more people that out of fear and out of mental conditioning will back their government no matter what, and that includes not revolting against their government. So you find yourself in this particular situation that I would call, for lack of a better word, battered woman syndrome. Or, some offshoot of, what's that called? Stockholm syndrome. Where they love their government because they're afraid not to. They have been, subjugated through fear. They have been brainwashed through intimidation. And there are a lot of people that are so afraid of picking up arms against the country they know is causing them harm that they're just not going to do it no matter what. And the sanctions that would normally work if the people revolted are just causing more harm to the people. And it takes the people being rational, like the people in Iran, to realize that it is not the fault of the United States that these sanctions are placed upon the country and why the country is suffering, but the decisions of the Iranian government that led to the sanctions in the first place. My government only spies on me because it loves me. Exactly, Grill and Pirate Pete, and welcome. So yeah, I mean it's a weird kind of dichotomy because you're seeing if you look over Venezuela, okay, people are leaving or trying to leave in droves. Those they can't stop from leaving have already snuck out of the country. The last time aid tried to come from Colombia to Venezuela, they were stopped. Well, they were ordered to be stopped by the government via the military, and over 300 Venezuelan military personnel defected because they were in essence being told to aid in the starvation of the people they're supposed to be protecting as the military. Over 300 military personnel in Venezuela defected because they did not want to, continue contributing to the starvation of their own people. But Maduro doesn't care. Maduro thinks that this grand idea of socialism and his idea of despotism works. And if you were to, interview him, he would say that it's working, that there's no problem with, what's going on in his country because he's completely delusional. Completely delusional. If you take a look at Iran, inflation has made it absolutely impossible to buy things that we would consider normal everyday luxuries, like a cell phone. The last time I reported in Iran, it was 2 months worth of a salary to afford that Apple iPhone. Hold on, she's barking. I gotta bring her in. Hello, Ruby Sue the Pirate Pooch. Get your booty in here. Thank you, ma'am. You can't be barking at neighbors. We've had this discussion before. You keep arguing, and your puppy TV's cut off for now. Yes, I know. No, Mommy's still doing a show. Mommy is still doing a show. So, then you look at Cuba, who has basically been oppressed since the 50s. And everybody's like, well, Raul is doing this, and Raul is doing that, and Raul is improving this, and, Raul has opened tourism. Well, let me explain to you what happened when Raul started allowing tourism in Cuba. He shifted the priorities of food prices to prioritize the restaurants that were open and wanted to open up. This led to an increase in food prices in grocery stores to the point where Cuban nationals are having a hard time affording just beans and rice. I'm going to let that hang there. Okay. Everybody that I have encountered, hasn't been recently, I haven't, delved into any of those kind of conversations on Twitter as of late. But in the past, when people have approached me about, Cuba and what's going on in Cuba, they, it's, oh, well, Fidel was a humanitarian and Fidel did this and Fidel did that. Okay, the only fucking credit I am going to give the Castro regime is the fact that there's 100% literacy rate in Cuba. That's it. Their education system is crap. They have shortages of just about every kind of career you could possibly want. Trade skills are going by way of the dodo down there. As far as humanitarian efforts are concerned, the doctors that are sent abroad don't have a choice. They either go where they are told to go and treat who they are told to treat for humanitarian purposes, or their families will come under fire, figuratively speaking, back in Cuba. In other words, the lives are going to be made a living hell unless that physician that is sent to God knows where does what he's supposed to be doing. For pennies on the dollar a day. But the Castro regime is a humanitarian regime, right? They have hospitals that I wouldn't even send my dog to, and morgues with corpses stacked like cordwood. But oh, socialism, socialized medicine works. That free medicine for everybody, right? Yeah, exactly, Wiki. You got it. These people have no clue. Of course, when you tell them to go to Venezuela, what do they all say? They pull out that no true Scotsman fallacy. Oh, that's not real socialism. Because they've been lied to as to what socialism actually is. Now, I don't tell them to go to Cuba because Cuba's communist. A lot of people sit there and go, well, Cuba's another socialist. No, it's communist. It's communist. Because once Fidel overthrew Batista, he took a look at us first and asked us for help. Very few people know that he asked for help from JFK. JFK said that he was not going to support a despot dictator or a dictatorial government. That in order to be supported by us, he was going to have to do, a democracy in Cuba, which he refused. So the door to the U.S. was closed, which at the time only left one door open, and that was the USSR, which is why, Cuba is now one of the, few communist countries that are left. People tell us, people are sitting there complaining about the embargo against Cuba and, what it's done for the country and, how the country's gone down because of the embargo. Now, I'm not going to argue that, certain things happened and are still happening according to the embargoes. But I am going to tell you that if you think that the only place that Cuba was getting shit from or shipping shit to was us, you're naive. They have Russia. They have the rest of the world that doesn't believe in placing embargoes upon them, doing business with them. It's simple. One door closes, you look for an open one. These people don't want to see that. These people don't want to see that. On that note, from what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to take a segment from a couple of different people because I find this is a good idea, but I'm going to do it under my own little hashtag. Because Monkey in the Morning has one, MSS News for Lords of the Night. At the end of each, probably the last half hour of each show until we get the OBS, I read an article where the reason socialist communists are still using the no true Scotsman fallacy is unlike his fellow comrade leaders, Marx never committed genocide because, well, that's an interesting theory. That is definitely an interesting theory. I may have to get you to link me that in DMs. So, if you want me to cover news stories in the bulk of the show, or for the last, I would say, half hour until we get our OBS format back, that is the hashtag that you can tag things in on both Gab or Twitter, and I will be checking those in order to do research on the articles and report the articles on the stream. So that's hashtag MWM News, which is short for hashtag Mad Woman Muses News. So there is that. If you wish to support me, there's a PayPal link down there. You can click it and you can do a one-time donation. There is also a Zero Strings and a coffee link both down there if you wish to crowdfund my efforts and support me and all the content that I make. There's also a Humble Bundle affiliate link down there. I tried to put a Humble Bundle store link in the live chat yesterday and it would not allow me. So apparently YouTube did a little bit of tweaking to their shit again. And unless you're monetized or you have Nightbot, which I can't get, explanation in the description, you cannot link to commerce sites in your live chat. Ain't that sweet? FEE.org that wrote the piece. Okay, cool. No problem, Lindsay. And on that note, guys, I hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. And I will see you guys across the interwebs on Twitter and even in my coffee club Discord, if, in fact, you are a member of my Discord and wish to chat. So So yeah, it's not gonna let me do that because it's got the stream thingies. So DM me for an invite on Twitter, and I will shoot you an invite to my Discord. Until then, guys, take care and have a great day.